Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all an update to my Cardfight Vanguard Crossover deck profile for post-Dragontree invasion. We got more of a lineup that helps with UU's playstyle in the Crossover, being able to incorporate cards from the Crossover Nirvana deck and also the original Overdress deck, being able to use both of these cards in tandem together with some awesome cards like the new Clad in Prayer normal order, and also just being able to use all the many different original Crossover cards. I feel like this deck will get even stronger with set 10 since we have some counter charge options with that deck. So we have to make do with the one big weakness of the deck being able to use up the counterblasts very quickly with all of our different units that we run in the deck, but still very happy with the results of the deck with the new support from Dragontree Invasion. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride deck, I'm running one copy of Trickstar as the starter. You could potentially run the Sunrise Egg if you wish to in the deck. I just find it consistent because you need to have a unit with Crossover and a unit with Overdress on the field. So some of the bigger weaknesses is just being able to only search out one of the Trickstars with our ride lineup. It takes away from the one draw you would have normally gotten from your Sunrise or Surprise Egg for the going second play, but still the rest of the ride deck remains the same, with Heart Pounding Blaze Maiden Reno being the option when rode upon by your Snuggling Blaze Maiden Rayu. You get to search out a Trickstar and call it to rearguard and then shuffle your deck. And with Crossover being an option, you can always use the Trickstar that you call as an added play in the deck also. And our main go-to grade 3 is our Chakrabarthi Phoenix Nirvana Jiva. When you ride upon your Rayu with Jiva, you get to look at the top 7 cards of your deck and search for up to one Prayer Dragon from among them, reveal it and put it into your hand, which is what you use with your Trickstar to go into your Crossover along with the Jiva that we are running in the ride deck. We're running 3 additional copies of this card as well. On the Vanguard Circle, you can discard a card from your hand, choose up to one Trickstar and up to one Prayer Dragon unit from your drop zone, and call them to rearguard. And on Vanguard Circle, when this unit attacks, you count +1, search your and choose one of your rearguards in the Crossover state and stand it. So you have stand power with your Clad in Prayer for your Overdress units, and then just an additional plus power to your Crossover unit on the field as well. So being able to stand it gives you your 4 attacks in one turn, but with the playstyle with our new order, we can hit for a total of 5 different attacks, which is even greater of pressure using this deck altogether. For some of our other grade 3 options in the deck, I'm also running 2 copies of Brilliant Equip Bram Virena. You need one Trickstar and one Prayer Dragon unit for the Crossover During the turn it's in Crossover state, it gets plus 10,000 power, and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it gets an additional plus 10. So if you Persona Road, it can be 43,000 total, and when the attack hits a Vanguard, if its unit's in Crossover state, Soul Blast 1, choose one of your columns, and also retire all of your opponent's units in that column. Just added pressure for the Soul Blast of this card, being able to make use of that playstyle. And the other grade 3 Crossover unit we run is Flaring Cannon Equip Bar Virena. On rear, if this unit is in Overdress or Crossover state, Soul Blast 2, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So you just have retire power with the Soul Blast power. And on rear guard, when it is in the Crossover state and attacks a Vanguard, this unit gets plus 2,000 until the end of the battle for each of your opponent's open rear guards. And if your opponent has 1 or less rear guards, counter +1 until the end of that battle. It gets drive -1 and performs a drive check for added rear guard pressure, giving you a drive check along with this card. The early game pressure you have with this being able to hit if your opponent just hasn't called any rear guards is immensely powerful as well. For our grade 2 units for Crossover I also run 2 copies of Vils Virena for the recycle power for our Crossover and 1 copy of Garou Virena for the restand pressure that this card gets with the plus 10 for the battle this unit is in the Crossover state, and for the plus 10 that it can also get when you use Clad in Prayer for that turn. And for our Overdress unit that we run in the deck, I run 3 copies of Virina Arcs. I just find it to be the most consistent when it's placed on rear. If it's an Overdress, counterblast 1, draw 2 cards, and this unit gets plus 5,000 till end of turn. So it's draw power. It does take up a counterblast, but it can at least give you some consistency for being able to draw into some of the needed cards you may need for your additional plays, whether it be a Trickstar, a Prayer Dragon, or just one other crossover dress. It can be searched out with one of the new grade 1 Prayer Dragons that we're also running in the deck. For some of the other grade 2s that I run in the deck, their Prayer Dragon lineup, I'm running 2 copies of the new Pierce equipped Dragon, Halbados. When this unit is placed on rear from hand, if you have a Vanguard with Nirvana and its card name, counterblast 1, and put a card with Virina and its card name from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card from among them with Virina and its card name, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. If you do not reveal a card, you countercharge 1. So it does take up a counterblast. Like I said, that's going to be a big weakness of the deck since Nirvana Jiva also requires a counterblast. But at least with this one, if you didn't get that search, you countercharge to at least take that card back as well for that play. And also being able to have that play with your option on it, being able to have that option to search for your original dress just adds to the pressure that it can provide, recycling your other Virinas also. I also still run 2 of the Urbargo Prayer Dragon as well. When it becomes an original dress, counterblast 1, soul charge 1, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So it helps with the bar Virina play, retiring more and more of your opponent's rear guards as well. I potentially was going to take this card out. If I were to do so, I would up the number of the Strike Equip Dragon, Stragaglio, that I run. It's a searcher when it's placed on rear from hand. If you have a Vanguard with Nirvana and its card name, discard a card from your hand, search your deck for up to 1 card with the Overdress ability or up to 1 Trickstar, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. And when this unit becomes original dress, counterblast 1, choose a Trickstar from your drop zone and call it to rear. So this gives you more consistency to at least call a Trickstar for having the multiple ones in your drop zone. If you had to use your Nirvana Jiva to call one and a Prayer Dragon for your crossover dress, you can use your Stragaglio as being one of the Prayer Dragons you called out to then also be part of the original dress to get you 1 more Trickstar on the field for you to then use your Overdress ability with your Virina Arcs. And then I also run 2 copies of Flash Equip Dragon Brahmata for the counterblast, draw 2, and discard a card when it becomes an original dress, just helping with more draw power in the deck alongside Virina Arcs. For the rest of the grade 1 lineup, I run 3 copies of Sparkle Rejector Dragon and the 1 copy of Elementaria Sanctitude for the additional guard power that our Sentinels have when you have 1 or less card in hand, and the Elementaria Sanctitude to stop units that have triple drive when attacking against you by not having to pay the discard cost. Otherwise, it's just a normal Sentinel to use. For the grade 0s, I run 3 copies of Trickstar, along with the copy that I run in the ride deck. 3 additional copies of this card just to have additional search, whether it be with our ride deck when we ride over Ryu with Nirvana Jiva, or even just with our search power thanks to our Strike Equipped Dragon Stragaglio, also being able to either search out the unit with our Vanguard Nirvana, being able to add a Trickstar or a unit with the Overdress ability. And then for our orders, I'm running 2 copies of Clad in Prayer. Now, this card was just such a, picky spot to choose where to run it. In the deck, you play it if you have a Vanguard with Nirvana, its card name, and 1 or more units each with Overdress and Cross Overdress. Choose one of your units in the Overdress state, and it gets on rear guard once per turn when your Vanguard attacks. Stand this unit, and until end of turn, choose one of your units with Cross Overdress state, and it gets plus 10,000. So you're giving plus 10 to the unit that Virina Jiva would already be restanding, and restanding the Overdress unit that already attacked, making so you can hit 4 or 5 attacks in total with all of your units. Very, very useful, but I only run the 2. Like I said, you have to have that field specifically set up for the playstyle that this deck is meant to go for, but when it can happen, it can definitely lay on the pressure needed to go into, and you also have plenty of draw power with Virina Arcs and Brahmata to search into this card. For our trigger lineup, I'm going with the 7 criticals, so 4 copies of Burning Flail Dragon and 3 copies of Blaze War Monk Sogyu for the added pressure for these cards. And the next spot is the draw triggers, so I can get more into the specific cards I need, potentially drawing in to the Cloud and Prayer if I haven't already done so with my Virina Arcs and my Brahmatas. And for the heal lineup, 3 copies of the Blaze Maiden Rayoni and 1 copy of the Stealth Fiend green Tamarahime, since we still have that grade 4 and now also the Dragontree deck to play against. It adds for an additional +10 shield. Just having a Vanguard that's grade is less than your opponent's. With the overtrigger being our Dragveda, having the restand pressure with our Vanguard is always a nice touch to add when you drive check this card off of your grade 3. And then the perfect field, like I said, for that setup revolves around you having your Nirvana Jiva, and then the 2 trick stars needed for your crossover dress. If you have your Stragaglio, being able to crossover dress with this card into your go-to crossover dress unit. So with that play there, you then also have the setup and search with your Stragaglio to have arcs added to your hand. That'll give you the additional draw to then potentially go into your Clad in Prayer, which you will activate, giving your unit in overdress state the ability. So then you will attack with your crossover dress, then the overdress one as well. You will attack with your Vanguard using Jiva to restand the crossover dress unit, then the Clad in Prayer will activate, restanding your overdress, and then with that giving +10 to the crossover dress, having the first, second attack, then Nirvana, and then the 2 additional attacks for 5 attacks in total against your opponents. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy. Like I said, it's a really awesome deck that's just going to get better. It was kind of the overlooked deck for the set with kind of underwhelming support compared to all the other decks, but still a very fun premise to be able to fuse crossover dress and overdress together into one deck. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.